Welcome everybody. We are delighted to have you with us for our webinar today on the value of continuing professional development. I have to say, rather selfishly, this comes at a perfect time for me, as this week, as we move towards the end of H1, I've been having those mid-year conversations that you have with your teams. So trying to help them take ownership of their career development, but also thinking about my ongoing professional development as well. So it's perfect for us that we have our speakers here from SFIA today to give us some great insight about how we can start thinking about taking ownership of skills of what we should do in terms of our careers and our professional development. A couple of kind of housekeeping notes. So the question and answer box will be open throughout the session. And what we'll do is we will have our presentation from John and Matthew. We will then do a short session on our CPD program at PeopleCert. And then what we will do is we will try to address as many of your questions as possible. I'm very aware that we are trying to pack a lot into 60 minutes. So we will try to get to all of your questions, but if we can't, we will follow up with them afterwards. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand over to John and Matthew now, and I hope you enjoy the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let me start. I'm Matthew Burrows, just really quick introduction. I'm a SFIA accredited consultant, assessor and trainer, and that means that I spend my time working with organizations and governments around the world, focusing on the people, skills and competencies part of what they do, and mainly using a framework called SFIA, the Skills Framework for the Information Age, which we'll give you an introduction to a little bit later. Going to hand over to my colleague, John, now.
Thank you, Matthew. John Kleist III. I'm a SFIA evangelist based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, season Steelers ticket holder. And I am in the business of evangelizing the SFIA framework, which you'll learn a little bit about today. And expanding upon some of the amazing success stories there are with SFIA internationally in countries like Australia and New Zealand, where they've standardized on this countrywide. Don't get to say this and sound cool very often, but I was the 2012 ITSMF USA Member of the Year. So I've been in the service management and ITIL space for quite some time. All right, let's get on to the good stuff. So we're going to start with, why do we need to do anything about skills and competencies? And the latest Future of Jobs report from the World Economic Forum says that 60% of workers will need training before the year 2027. But the important question is, which skills do they need to develop? In the next 5 years, it's predicted 83 million jobs will be lost and 69 million new jobs will be created. As you look at this diagram here, even if you are in the blue jobs in the middle, most of these roles will continue to evolve, with the skills needed to perform these jobs changing even more rapidly than we've seen in the past. If you go back just as little as 10 years ago, it wasn't uncommon for a job description to be written with the expectation that it would remain the same for at least a few years, right? Now that's just not the case. Gartner estimates that 10% of the skills needed for any job, digital or any job at all, change each year. So even if you're staying in the same job with the same role, you'll need a development plan, which includes developing some new skills and making sure that you're staying current and up to date with some of the skills that you are familiar with. Your career is a journey with multiple legs or stages on that journey. As professionals, we can't just afford to leave it to chance, right? We need to take some ownership of our skills and competencies and our development planning to work out which direction to head next. Very much like GPS, satellite navigation system, we need some of those same key elements, right? Knowing where you are now, identifying where you need to go to next. The GPS system gives us a common framework for expressing any location, including the current location and your next destination. Your phone contains the map and has access to this data and can find places like road names. And armed with this information, we can plot a route or several alternative routes to make adjustments based on traffic. If you've used Waze, things like that, it's using real-time data and diversions based on our travel preferences. And the thing is, how do we do the equivalent of for our ongoing skills and competencies? If you were going to create your own navigation system, you're not going to put up your own satellites and create your own language. These things already exist. The first thing to do is to confirm where you are right now. Ask yourself, what skills do you have, or what skills does your organization have as a whole? Just like the navigation example, this needs to be conveyed in a common, understandable language so everyone can understand each other. There's no point in making up your own skills taxonomy. You wouldn't launch your own satellites, as I was saying, or create new maps and naming conventions. You would use the existing ones. Your skill profile might look a little bit like what you see on the screen here, showing which skills and competencies you have at the relevant levels. And this acts as your baseline, where you start your journey from today. And from there, you can compare your skill profile with skill requirements, whether that's, do you have the skills for your current job? What skills do you need for a future job? Or what skills do I need, based off of an industry role or specialism? You can do the gap analysis and then create and maintain a development action plan to, like we said, stay up to date or upskill, reskill, and expand to what you want to do next in your career progression. Has anyone ever seen this situation? It's funny and it resonates, I'm sure, but I know a lot of companies where this has happened. I know Matthew has told stories, many of this happening. And you've completed a training course, you've acquired the knowledge and have a theoretical understanding. Some people and some bosses think that's the end of the development journey, but it's not. Matthew?
Yeah, so from there, we really need the opportunity to put that knowledge into practice, perhaps with some mentoring, some guidance, shadowing somebody else, so that we have some safety measures in place in case we make mistakes in the early stages of developing that skill and that skill proficiency. And even our development doesn't stop there. We need to keep our skills up to date. The use it or lose it principle comes in. We keep those up to date. Might be new versions of frameworks and methodologies, changes in technologies and best practices. And this is really CPD, continuing professional development. And it's essential to building and maintaining our core specialisms. Just another cartoon for you. A lot of companies, there's real truth behind this. A lot of companies think that people are their job titles. And if you think about people that way, you tend to lose the good ones. And in an environment where we've got skill shortages, we really need to hold on to our best people. And in this example, you see Sarah has got the skills that are needed for a vacancy, but wasn't even considered because the company didn't know she had those skills. And some managers and organizations only focus on the current job. And people are so much more than their current job description. We all have skills based on the projects we've worked on, previous roles that we've held. And with skill shortages reported pretty much everywhere, it's a great time to be working in an IT, digital, or technology related specialism. And when we look at the environment, we find a lot of people leaving, and the reasons why people leave organizations have been pretty constant for 7 or 8 years now. The top reason's not pay, it's actually about a perceived lack of development opportunities. So if you can't show people those development opportunities, you might struggle to hold on to your best people, particularly when there are skill shortages. So when we look at this from an organizational perspective or an individual perspective, but let's start with the organization. Many organizations think that they have an idea of the skills that they might have. But of course, technology increasingly important to pretty much every organization in every industry. So what we found is things have changed. The skills and competencies that we thought we had, when we assess them, we quite often find out that actually the skills we really have are slightly different from what we thought. A lot of organizations don't have a skill inventory, so they actually have never asked. They don't know what skills they have. If you do this properly and you find out about all the skills that people have, you will find some good things. You'll find some less comfortable things as well. You'll find you'll confirm the skills that you thought you had that you do have. Great, you can carry on using those, your known usable capability. You'll get a bonus. You'll actually, if you do it in the right way and treat people as more than just their job, you'll find unknown skills you didn't know you had in the organization. You have them, you need them, and therefore now you know where they are, you can make use of them. You'll also find some unused capability, skills that you have within your people at the moment that you might not need this week, but actually some of that you might need for a sprint next week, for a project next month, or for a new service that's going live next year. You'll also get the uncomfortable piece, the danger zone, where you will find some skills that you thought you had, and it turns out you don't actually have them in the organization. It is really important to find out those as quickly as possible, because in my experience, those are the types of skills that cause you to make the press for a data breach, for a security failure, for a project or a service failure. It's often caused by not having the right people with the right skill at the right level. So there's no do nothing option here. We really do need to know what skills we have, and we then need to use that data to make some decisions. So just a couple more, have you ever been talking to somebody at a party about your job or explaining what you do for work to a relative? Perhaps you simply said, I work in IT. And often the response I've got from that is, great, can you fix my laptop? People don't understand the detail of that. And some organizations think they've already got systems in place to address that. They've got their HR platforms, their general HR platforms. But the truth is that actually some of these systems are often too high level, and they don't really get down to the level of detail that we need to recognize people's specialisms. Not everybody in IT is exactly the same, as we all know. We've all got our different specialisms, our different experiences, and therefore our different skills and competencies. So the vital ingredients, whether you're looking at this from an organizational perspective or thinking about it from your own perspective as an individual professional in this industry, there are some vital ingredients. As John talked about, we need that common language to describe the skills and competencies so everybody understands each other. And this is the role the SFIA framework plays here, the skills framework for the information age. Number two, we then need to know where we are right now, exactly like that satellite navigation. What skills do we have? And that's done by building a skill profile for each person. And of course, when you combine those skill profiles together, you end up with a skill inventory for your whole organization. Then number three, we need to take a view on the skills that we need using that same SFIA language. And of course, the skills that we have and the skills we need don't stay the same. So we need an easy way to capture them in the first place, but then to keep them up to date as and when they change. With those two data sets, the skills we have, the skills we need, we can start to do some comparison, some gap analysis, and identify our priorities that we need to address. And then point 5 here, we can then use that data to create and maintain some action plans. Every individual needs a development action plan. The CPD is essential, and we have more change than ever before. If you go back 10 or 15 years ago, you could expect a job description to remain static, as John said, for quite a few years. And that is not the reality now. We're in a much faster pace of change. Methodologies and frameworks get updated, new technologies are introduced, best practice evolves. And as a professional, we need to take a bit of personal responsibility to stay up to date in our particular specialist areas. And that's really what CPD is about. So the briefest of introductions to SFIA, we're not here to make you SFIA experts, but let's just give you, if you've never heard of SFIA, let's just give you a really quick overview. So as I say, SFIA stands for the Skills Framework for the Information Age. It describes skills and competencies that are required by professionals in roles that involve information and communications technology. SFIA's become a globally accepted standard. It's a common language for describing those skills and competencies in the digital world. It's used by organizations and individuals in nearly 200 countries. It's been around for over 20 years and it's regularly updated. We're currently on version 8. We're already looking at version 9, which is due for release sometime late in 2024. We'll come back and give you a bit more information on that another time, but if you want to look up SFIA, you can look for the SFIA Foundation website and a bit of information there. You can see the URL on the screen. So just want to explore a couple of other areas. Competence isn't just about knowledge. To become fully professionally competent in our specialisms, we need to, yes, have the background knowledge, but we need the opportunity to apply that knowledge in a real working environment to become proficient at what we're describing, what that activity of that skill is. So yes, you need education and training, but you then need the opportunity to put that into practice, become proficient, hopefully eventually move on, that you've done it so many times over an extended period of time that you could do it with one arm tied behind your back and a blindfold. You've reached the end of your development journey in that skill at that level, and that's really when you've hit that full professional competency. And these definitions are defined for us by various ISO standards. So we're not making this up. And really that distinction is very important because you need to know what capability somebody has. It's not just about what you know, it's what you do and the experience you have. So just recently, back in last year, there was a Deloitte skills-based organizational survey, came out May to June 2022. And it gave some really excellent content on their view of what's needed and what it means to be a skills-based organization. And the survey shows that executives and workers want a new approach that moves away from the traditional work-based model based on static jobs, and really recognizes that often we have to broaden our work and think about broader problems to be solved, outcomes to be achieved, sometimes fractionalizing the work down and making it more flexible so that you're thinking about the tasks that need to be performed, not just static roles. And that report really matches the way we've talked about this for years. You know, conceptually, it's quite straightforward and it's often much easier than most people think if you follow the guidance and experience out there on how to address the skills challenges. So we need to represent the skills we need. We can then make some decisions on that once we've got an inventory of the current skills we have, and we know what skills we need for projects, sprints, roles, even individual tasks. We can compare that with our skill inventory and we can make decisions on where we need to build skills in people, so develop our existing people, where perhaps we have the skill, but it's not in the right place in the organization and we need to mobilize and move that around, where perhaps we need to recruit and buy some skills into the organization. And also sometimes we borrow those skills from contractors, third-party providers, service providers, vendors, and so on. The key to it is having the data and good, reliable data. And as the Deloitte report said, start off with a skills framework and a common language. And that's really the role that SFIA gives you. You need that to start off with, otherwise you can't really start those other tasks. So it's a really strong foundation for anything you want to do. using SFIA to describe the skills, describe what you need, describe what you have, and really plug into that internationally recognized common language for skills and competencies. So coming towards the end of our time on this, so I'm just going to give you a summary slide. So we hopefully given you a quick overview of why we think it's important and what do you do next. And we're going to give you a bit of help with fleshing this out later on, but just at a high level, if you're thinking about your own career, your own professionalism, thinking about it from your own perspective as individuals, the first thing you need to do is answer that what skills do we have question. And that's quite easy by building a SFIA-based skill profile. Then have a look at the skills that you need, whether it's for your current role, a future role, industry profiles, a particular area of specialism that you're interested in moving into. Do that gap analysis, reflect that in a development plan. And remember, the development plan isn't just about the training courses you go on, it's about continual professional development, keeping up to date with those things. That 70-20-10 model that I flashed on the screen earlier, our development, yes, involves training and gathering knowledge, but then applying it, continuing to apply it in a working environment. And that should all be in our development plan and part of our CPD. If you're thinking about this from your organizational perspective, it's a very similar journey. Find out where you are now. Make sure everybody has got a skill profile so that you have a skill inventory for the organization. Take a view on the skills that you need now and into the future, and then start using that data to make some good decisions. Okay, at that point, I'm going to hand back.
Wow, I'm not sure how to follow that, John and Matthew. It comes as something when you're moderating the webinar, but actually you're paying attention and you're making notes as well. SFIA is something that I am relatively familiar with. Lots of our training providers map our PeopleCert certifications onto SFIA framework as a clear example, as a link. One of the things that we've been thinking about a lot at PeopleCert is around continued professional development linked to the introduction of renewal of certifications and actually how we can support moving from this just taking a certification and that's it. I've got my Prince 2, I'm done, to actually what's next? How do I expand that? What other skills can I develop? How do I build on that? And so what we'd like to do now is I'm going to hand you over to our Director of Membership, who's just going to talk about what we've been doing and thinking about at PeopleCert to give you an insight and link the two together.
Thank you so much, Vicky. Hello to everybody attending as well. Give me a second to share my screen, please. I'll be right with you. Okay, share screen. Fantastic. Excellent. Share. Okay, so first of all, excellent presentation, John and Matthews. It clearly shows the value of continuing our development beyond one task, maybe beyond one learning moment in our professional lives. So yeah, okay. So I think this is what you said. I'm making this a little bit more selfish now, in the sense of what are the benefits that we get by continuing to learn and certify our skills. It's also all about us. It's all about us. It's all about going through this cycle of on the right, where we assess our capabilities, we acquire skills and knowledge, and then we make this cycle go on and on and on again. And the environment in which we're living actually even forces us to think about that right now. This is also the reason why credential bodies like PeopleCert are moving towards what we typically call recertification schemes, whereby certificates need proof for being sort of valid for users. This is nothing new, of course. Reason is that credentials bodies try to maintain the value of certifications and make sure that our customers have valuable certificates. Thinking about it from an employer perspective, employers need to know that the skills that we hold through a certification are valid, especially for a certification that has been taken 5, 7, 10 years ago. And this requires some proof that we are maintaining and are evolving our skills, the skills that we've gained. I was even thinking, especially as we're moving to a data-driven present and future, think about it, our CVs are now being selected automatically by ATS, applicant tracking systems, right? And it's very important that the information that we have there is current. And information that also have to do with our certifications and our skills should be current, okay? And this is why also PeopleCert has decided for its global best practice certificates to move forward with this certification kind of notion, where users can choose, certificate holders can choose to renew within 3 years their certificates. And when we're talking about global best practice, these are the typical Axelos certificates, ITIL, PRINCE, so on and so forth. These very well-known certificates. How can this happen with PeopleCert? How can you maintain your certification valid through time? We have forged two routes. First of all is an exam route. So you can definitely, within the 3 years where your certificate is valid, you can attend another course and take a related exam before the renewal date, before the 3 years. The other route that we have is the CPD route. The CPD route is something that you can follow by collecting and logging CPD points within MyAxelos. The other very important note here is we want to make things easy and manageable for people. So we've separated the certificates in product suites. So certifications within a product suite all share the same renew by date, meaning that if you hold an ITIL foundation and ITIL practitioner, for example, these belong in the same suite. By sitting an exam in that suite or working through the CPD points, as we will explain later, within that suite, you get all your certificates recertified in a sense within the suite. And these are the suites, ITIL 4, PPM, as we call it, Project Program and Portfolio Management, Agile Shift, and Resilient. Now, let's focus a little bit more on a route that might not be that well known. I think that everybody understands how if I take another exam or get another training and exam in the suite that we're talking about, that's something that people understand. But let's focus a little bit more on the CPD route that we're talking about. So it's pretty straightforward. So all you need is a subscription to MyAxelos. MyAxelos is PeopleCert's exclusive membership program, and I will have the opportunity to showcase this to you in a minute. Then you maintain this subscription for 3 years. Each year you log 20 CPD points, and then at the end of the 3 years, your certificates are extended for another 3 years. Here's how CPD points work. So as we said, you need 20 CPD points per year against the activities, the categories and the activities that we are highlighting on the table on the right. 5 points should come from the first category, the professional experience category. It's important for us, for people to practice their skills that they've earned through their certification. The remaining 15 can come from the rest of the activities. Also from, if you have extended professional experience, you can add that. The very important thing with MyAxelos, with PeopleCert's membership, is that it has a lot of content that sits within the platform. It's a really content-driven platform. So content you consume on the platform can definitely count towards the CPD points and the activities that you need to complete to extend your renew by date. Also, the webinars that we're doing for our members, our exclusive members, can also count towards collecting CPD points. And very quickly, because we understand, it's a change for the market. It's a change in the way that we do things. It's important to help everyone. We do have an offer out in place right now, whereby people that actually get an annual subscription with PeopleCert membership, MyAxelos, up to the end of this month, will see all their certifications be automatically renewed for the next 3 years. So that's a big opportunity for people to start this journey and start the journey of exploring MyAxelos, of exploring that journey around CPD, as John and Matthew said, with all the resources that sit in MyAxelos. This was the quick presentation. And now let me jump into MyAxelos to explain some more of how this program looks like and how CPDs can be utilized within the platform. So let me move this over here. A quick check with my colleagues. Is this shared?
Yes, we can see the MyAxelos home screen.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So how do you, first of all, we explained what MyAxelos is. How do you subscribe to MyAxelos? You visit the MyAxelos URL and you go in and select your monthly or annual subscription. Once you do that, you get into MyAxelos. And you can see our homepage. You can see that we have an abundance of resources. You can use your CPD points, your certification points, your badges, attend events, so on and so forth. You can see here that immediately we inform you of your certificates, your certifications, and your eligibility for working with CPDs. This is our CPD platform. You can very easily view where you are with your CPD journey. You can see here, for example, I'm holding 2 certificates in the same family, Prince 2 Foundation and Prince 2 Practitioner. And for the first year, I've completed my CPD journey, my CPD requirements. I have 20 out of 20 points through professional experience activities and community contribution activities. Just as an example, I've added here my information that helps me gain my CPD points. For this year, I need to start adding my CPDs. I can very quickly go and add my CPDs. I can select the certificates I'm claiming for, the type of CPD. I will add the description needed, the points I'm claiming, the dates. I can also include an attachment if needed. So it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. And you can also view the whole process and understand how we do things by going through this documents that we have. So the other thing that I wanted to show is by having your CPDs in proper shape, you also can keep your badges in proper shape. And that's very important because, as you can see here, through our badging system, your skills are portrayed to potential employers, to colleagues, and as long as your CPDs are in good shape and in good standing, your digital badges are also in good standing. And this is a public image that you can share with colleagues, employers on LinkedIn and across the board. So that's about it. I think I'm going to state what I said. We have that offer in place. It's very important that you take advantage of it. And we're here to support you in every step of your journey as necessary. So, Vicky, back to you now.
Thank you.
I see a lot of questions, by the way.
Lots and lots of questions coming in, some really specific about people's individual certifications. And I think for some we'll need to take a look at accounts. But what I would urge everybody to do is to continue putting your questions in chat. I'm going to start working through them. So the first that comes up a number of times is, will the presentations be shared? The great news is that for this webinar, we've made the decision to share it on our PeopleCert YouTube platform. So you will have full access not only to obviously to the content of the presentation from that recording, but also the question and answers and the wisdom shared by Fano, John and Matthew. So for me, that's great news. There's a huge number of questions, which is really exciting, wanting to go into some more detail around SFIA. So I'm going to start with those, and then we'll start to talk about some of the nuances of the CPD program. So the first one, and this is a great question actually, how can I use SFIA as an individual to build a profile? Would you kindly give a brief example so I can understand? So John, Matthew, I'm not sure who wants to take that one.
I'll take that one if you're okay. Yep. So first of all, most people will start with a SFIA-based self-assessment. And that's what we build at Skills TX. We have a tool that will help you do that online. And you can do it in somewhere between 10 minutes and an hour. So it is a structured one-off set of surveys that will walk you through it, because not everybody will be an expert in SFIA. If you're relatively new to the IT and digital side of things, it'll probably be nearer 10 minutes. If you're a 20-year veteran, guess what? You've got more skills. So therefore, it will take you a little bit longer. Most people, as I say, do it in under an hour. You can stop and start as much as you like, exit out, go back, do it. That is a one-off activity. That gives you the SFIA-based skill profile that we briefly showed in a screenshot in the presentation. From there, you can then compare your skill profile with a number of existing roles. We also have all of the ITIL practices, for example, mapped to SFIA. We have example roles from governments and organizations in lots of different countries. There are over 675 different templates. You can pick which ones you want to look at, overlay them on your skill profile, start to see where your potential gaps are and your development focus might be. And you can even get guidance on which actions are relevant to your skills at the levels you want to focus on them in.
Thank you so much. I think what might be helpful is if I add the cheat sheet in chat so everyone can kind of just have a look at the SFIA cheat sheet and start to think about it. And I think that's one of the things about today's webinar. For some of you, this is all brand new. And what we would hope is that it gives you some things to think about, some places to start, how to start thinking about your skills, your competencies, and then we obviously, from our perspective, we have the MyAxelos platform where you can start engaging, logging and keeping your certifications current. So this might be the start of your journey. I'll drop the cheat sheet into chat in one moment, and then we can continue on with some questions. So another one here, which I just think is a fantastic one at quite a high level, but we all know as employees we work in the context of an organization, right? So you've mentioned that having the data is key and how important it is to decision making. What's your view of organizations' levels of skill data, and what do the best companies do to have the appropriate level? Now that's someone who's really engaged with your presentation. Great question. John,
It
Matthew, who
is.
wants to take that one?
Yeah, I'm. John, do you want to take that? I'm happy to, but
I think you can handle that
right.
one. I'll take the next one.
Yeah, no problem. So the first thing to say is don't be embarrassed if your organization doesn't have a skill inventory, because the truth is most organizations don't. And even the ones that think they have a skill inventory, it's often a list of technologies, certifications, and they're not skills. So they might have a list of everybody who's got an Oracle certificate, but they've got no idea what people do with that Oracle knowledge. They don't know whether they're a database administrator, a database designer, a solution architect, an operational support analyst. They could be doing lots of things. So that's why a framework like SFIA is really important, because actually you get to what really is a skill. And skill is all about what you do, not what you do it with. Yep. So the tools and the technologies are relevant, but only in the context of the skill and competency. So most organizations got a bit of a mix of data. They haven't structured it very well. What the organizations that are doing it well are doing is adopting the SFIA framework, getting everybody to create a skill profile, embedding it into what they do, so that everybody understands that to get the maximum opportunities, to be able to see a clear set of career options and paths, to get the right support from your management, to be sent on the most appropriate training for your skill gaps, you need a current and up-to-date skill profile at all times. So create it, take that up to an hour to do it. That's one off. Whenever your skills change, take the 30 seconds it will take you to go in and edit your profile and update it. And then record your actions, plan your approach from where you are to where you want to go to next. Maybe your first step is going on a training course. Maybe the next one's doing some self-study. Next one might be a bit of shadowing or being allocated to a project. Build your plan. That's your CPD framework. Yeah, you're gonna build your plan, and then you're going to track your progress against it and reevaluate and update your skill profile. Then decide on what's the next step I need to take.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I really hope that answered the question. If you want any more kind of follow up, do pop a note. There are lots of questions in here, Fano, around what examples of CPD, what evidence they need, and those sorts of things. And one of the things that I wanted to pick out from your presentation, but is also really key to the work we've been doing on membership, is that this isn't meant to be a very labor, very intensive, very complex process. The customer journey that Fano has designed, and I will hand over to him in a moment to talk about it more, is simple. The idea is that you think about your activity, you record your activity. There is the option to add evidence, but it's not mandatory. And then as PeopleCert, we run an audit. It's very simple and it's very straightforward. Is there anything you'd add to these sort of questions around how to track CPD for a webinar, or how do I provide evidence, just to help with those type of questions?
Yeah, I think first of all, we've really tried to make the usability as easy as possible. It's very important because we understand that sometimes it's cumbersome. You know, we've seen platforms and experiences where people need to uh, um, think very hard on how to do things, and also it's very difficult to get to CPD points. For us, it's not a matter of having you search through different resources to get CPD points. It's all about using activities that you perform in your everyday professional life. And that's what Vicky is also trying to say in the sense of the activities described in the table that we've mentioned are things that you can accomplish within your everyday professional and learning and development life. Yeah, and again, throughout the year, we've also made it easy to edit, delete your CPD points if you're not sure about something. It's sort of like throughout the year, you can use this as an inventory and decide what to use and what to keep as you move forward. And the other thing is that MyAxelos, as a platform, offers a lot of content. It offers a lot of content in terms of learning resources, which can help you see how you can upskill or reskill in an area. It also offers a ton of professional resources, templates, guidelines, role profiles across the different frameworks and disciplines that you can use to help you in this process. And lastly, by consuming this content in MyAxelos, by attending our exclusive webinars, you can definitely utilize those events to help you earn CPD points. So we're trying to make it as straightforward as possible for our users.
Thank you very much. Let me see where we go now. So there's a few questions around whether you get CPD points for engaging with our webinars. For those of you who aren't members, we do run frequent exclusive member webinars. We've obviously broadened this one out to a wider audience with our guests from SFIA here. But yes, absolutely. So the point system is simple for your professional education. It's simply 1 point per hour. So for just simply having the pleasure of listening to our great speakers today, you can log 1 CPD point. It's not automated. All of the logging is carried out by you. So it's up to you to put it in there. We're not at the stage yet whereby it's going in automatically, but I'm sure it will be on Fano's backlog. We've got some questions around, and I think this probably stems from people who know the PMI PDU system, whether you have to do 20 points every year or whether 60 points over 3 years is okay. Do you want to take that one, Fano?
Yes, you have to do 20 points every year. That's our way of thinking. We need to see that the development path is continuous and it's not a one-off thing that happens every 3 years. So we appreciate people having a learning journey and upskilling journey rather than doing like one moment in time and logging the 60 CPD points. That's the way of thinking.
I think that's a really great point, and I hope that it's one that Matthew and John would appreciate. When we were thinking about CPD, we didn't want it to be a thing that you do at the end of 3 years because you have to renew your certification. We wanted it to be something that you think about and you engage with on an ongoing basis. So that's behind the decision to do it yearly. So the requirement is there. You do need to, if you're renewing via CPD, you do need to log your points every year. And I think that's the right decision, I have to say. I think rather than kind of coming to the end of a 3-year period and suddenly looking back and thinking, what have I done? For us, that ongoing engagement is really important. Going
Vicky,
back,
if I could add,
yeah.
I think relevant to that topic, I'm going to tease something here for you. Is if anybody uses Office 365, you get an email every day from a program called Viva. We're a Microsoft partner, and they're starting to embed the SFIA stuff into Viva. So if you complete a project in Microsoft Project, it's going to say in your morning routine, hey, your SFIA profile might need updated. You actually have some experience beyond the knowledge from your Prince 2 class that you took. So it's really going to
I
be
did not know
embedded
that. That is
into
new
the
news.
daily way of, integrating it to not just something that it's going to be forced into the way we work in the future.
Wow, and that's live now.
Not
I saw it this
complete.
morning.
Okay.
Yeah, it's imminent. It's there in
Imminent.
final testing stage. Within Teams, you can go in and do your profile within Teams. It's great. Really, what do they say? Move it into the flow of work. So you should think about it. What when I finish a sprint, what did I learn over the last 2 weeks? Does my skill profile need updating? Do I need to change my actions and my action plan? And there are very logical review points that you need to do as part of your just managing your career and your professionalism, and leaving it for 3 years doesn't seem to make a lot of sense in this fast moving environment.
Absolutely.
It really supports that transition of continuous professional development that the whole concept of this webinar was about.
Thank you. Well, I've got a question. I think John, Matthew, I think you'll have a few answers to this. What tools are available to assess our skill gap?
Yeah, can you read the shirt? Is this blatant plug time? Yes, we have created a platform. That's the Skills TX platform. It's there to make it easy to use this, whether you're assessing your own skills, whether you're defining your role profiles and job descriptions, whether you're analyzing the data and trying to make decisions on buy versus build, or whatever you're doing. Even embedded in, as Thanos showed, the badges on your Credly profile, those can be built into your skill profile, your evidence section. They're all part of your skill profile. So yeah, there are some tools to make it really easy. There's also some good best practice and some self-paced online training all embedded in there so that you really can do it yourself, hit the ground running. And if you're the type of organization that wants a bit of external support, there's also SFIA consultants and assessors and people around that who've done it millions of times. And if you're a bit time poor and you want some external help, you can get that as well. But it's perfectly possible to do it all yourself. Just log into the tool, get started.
Thank you very much. I have to say, just to be clear, that question wasn't from Matthew or John. It does appear to be from one of our genuine participants. Fano, coming back to kind of MyAxelos and the offer that you talked about. So firstly, a clarification, I think the presentation said the 31st of June, it's the 30th of June. So end of this month. We've got a few questions from people whose renew by dates are coming up quickly, and they're asking actually if they sign up for annual membership, will that then extend their renew date automatically? Does that all happen in the system? What do they need to do?
Yes, certainly. And people that have lost their renew by date deadline, or this is approaching very quickly, or even people that might have lost 1 or 2 years of their ability to add CPD points, so they're not eligible for CPDs within MyAxelos. If they sign up with an annual subscription up to June 30th, all their certificates, okay, no matter if they have 2 in the ITIL family, if they have ITIL and Prince 2, all of the certificates, renew by date, will be extended for 3 years. Okay, this happens automatically in the system across the board by doing that action. Just make sure that when you subscribe to MyAxelos, you subscribe with the email that you have used for your PeopleCert account. If people have any difficulties with either understanding the process or they have done the process and have questions or something is not showing right, PeopleCert's customer service will immediately reply on any of their queries.
Brilliant, thank you. So I think I've got a couple of requests within the question and answers, and I'm hoping one of my marketing colleagues can just drop the link into chat for everybody to see for more information about how to sign up for the annual subscription. I've got 2 requests in chat for that, so I think that would be helpful. Another question, do I need multiple subscriptions if I have multiple PeopleCert certifications?
No, no. With a subscription, you get all the features and the feature set of MyAxelos. You get all the content that we have discussed about. Plus, you get the ability with that one subscription to work with your CPD points across your certificates. You only need one subscription to get everything.
Okay, couple of other questions. I'm not going to go into some of the very detailed ones about people's personal experiences because they'll take a little while to answer and we only have a few minutes left.
Vicky, apologies, one more
yeah.
thing, because I think I've seen that somewhere. Your certification period actually starts when you take your certificate and ends 3 years after. Okay, just want to make sure that people understand that it's not a calendar thing. You know, it starts January to December or something like that.
Yeah, it's from when you take out your subscription. Couple of questions around what happens if I am on medical leave or parental leave or any of those sorts of things during the CPD period. We do have an exceptions process and we do make adjustments based on individual circumstances, and that's obviously really important. We've talked a lot here about professional development, but we also know that sometimes personal circumstances mean that for whatever reason we're away from work for a period of time. So yes, absolutely, we have an exceptions process. If you ever need to use it, then our customer service team can help with that. I'm just trying to squeeze in one last question. Actually, I'm going to ask a question for each of you. I think people are feeling that there's lots to think about, lots to do, some specifically in relation to their certifications, some in relation to how they start thinking about skills. Very quickly, can each of you give me 20 seconds on what your recommendation for people should do next after this webinar to continue their professional development? Matthew, you're top left of my screen, so I'm coming to you first.
Okay, find out where you're starting from. So if you're an individual, do your skill profile. It won't take you very long. It's a one-off activity. You know where you're starting from. Any navigational decision is going to be wrong if you don't know where you're starting from. So that's the most important thing. Where are you now? And it's a similar answer for the organization as well. What skills have you got?
That's a brilliant one because it relates to ITIL. Start where you are. Great principle. Yep. John?
I must have been trained by the master, because I couldn't emphasize any further that you can't get to where you're going if you don't know where you are. Lost in the middle of the woods without a compass is not a good place to be.
And finally, Fano, what should people do next?
I think first of all, I think it's very right everybody to get on a journey. It's the right thing to get on a continuous learning journey. I think it's critical also with the changes that we're seeing in technology that affect everybody. We need to get to that learning journey. Also, a good place to start a learning journey is PeopleCert as well, through training, through membership. And of course, for people that do want to see their renew by dates being extended, that offer that we have in place actually covers both situations, both your learning and development needs, plus the ability to have your certifications renew by date extended for the next 3 years, so that you have the opportunity to lay out your plan, to lay out your development plan and your development path without any stress at all.
Thank you all very much. Apologies for throwing one of my own questions at you, but I thought it would be a great way for us to close today. So I know we are at our time, so what I would ask all of our attendees today to do, there'll be a brief survey that pops up as the meeting closes. It's really important to us that we get feedback on these webinars, on anything different you'd like to see, new topics, all of those sorts of things, any follow-up you'd like. I have already mentioned to John and Matthew that I think, and it came up in the questions, which is great to validate what I think we need. To a follow-up session, actually building your own profile, really starting to think about it from an individual perspective. So we have noted that a follow-up is needed. We've given you a huge amount of information today. You've clearly engaged with it, judging by the 100+ questions in the question and answer box, which is amazing. We'll go through them, we'll take a look, we'll make sure that we're giving you clear information about your next steps, about MyAxelos and about SFIA. So all that remains is me to say, firstly, thank you to all of our participants today, and a special thank you to our presenters. It's been an absolute privilege, and we will have you back soon.
Thank you.
Look
Thank you
forward
very
to it.
much.
Thank you.